The story of the Legend of Zelda games is different from game to game because the story is told differently over thousands of years.
Today we're here to talk about our personal Legends of Zelda.
Welcome to the third episode of the Zac and Tav Podcast.
Welcome!
First, we'll talk about your Legends and Zelda games that you played, Tav, and then we're going to talk about my Legend of Zelda games that I played.
One is going to be shorter than the other.
Oh yeah, definitely. Last but not least, we'll talk about Zelda's future and what we hope of the next big 3D Zelda. What was your first Zelda game?
Well, my first Zelda game came a lot later. My first proper Zelda game was actually Breath of the Wild. But I've been playing Zelda games at friends' places a lot. When I was a kid, for example, one friend had A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, but I don't remember too much about that, except for that it was really confusing to me, just visiting over and then finding this huge world, and it was like a puzzle game to me. My first proper Zelda game, I'd say, that I played with a friend was Ocarina of Time on the N64, which at the time seemed like such a huge game, much bigger than most of the other 3D games I knew, and it had an open world where you could travel between places. It was so exciting just finding out about these puzzles, where to go next, where the story takes you. The game is structured in a simple way where you know, okay, I have to go there, then I have to go there. And the game gives you some hints.
How linear is Ocarina of Time? Because I know like Breath of the Wild is totally not linear, but how is it with Ocarina of Time?
I would say that the old Zelda games are all very linear. Old in the sense, I would say there are Zelda games before Breath of the Wild and after Breath of the Wild. And all the games before Breath of the Wild were to some extent very linear, as well as Ocarina of Time. The first part of the game is super linear because you just have to get to the Temple of Time, find the Master Sword, and then you turn into grown-up Link. And then you can travel between the time periods. You can go back in time when you were a child, or you can explore the destroyed Hyrule, the post-apocalyptic Hyrule after Ganon became the ruler as a grown-up, and then you can move more freely. The game is really always kind of linear and pushing you towards where you need to go. There's only one part towards the end where you have to go back in time and then come back as a grown-up and then switch around to make things happen so that you can gain entrance into one of the last temples. The temples are the dungeons in the game.
Yeah.
Up until then, it's fairly linear. Even though you have some side content and side quests that you can do where it doesn't really matter when you do it, right? You can go to the Lone Ranch and do horse riding, etc., etc. Ocarina of Time was, I feel, a very, very special Zelda game, especially since it was the first proper 3D game. Like, after Mario 64, it took a while until another 3D game of that scale allowed you so much freedom. And Zelda kind of, to me, it always felt worse than Mario 64 because you couldn't just jump whenever you wanted. That was one of the things that I really loved when I first played Breath of the Wild. I could run around and
Ocarina of Time, it's like if there's a possibility you jump over a slope or something, it does it automatically.
Yes, exactly. Or there's a special button to jump over a ledge.
Yeah, but it's not like you can jump whenever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people regarded that as a feature because it's like, well, why would you jump if it's useless? But for me, it was always, well, then I know exactly when I can explore something. And if not, then I can't explore it. And otherwise, I would just try it out. Oh, can I jump there? And I think the free jump aspect, that really made Zelda feel like inferior to Super Mario 64, which is a bit unfair, since in a lot of ways, I think Zelda 64, Ocarina of Time, is a much better game, especially since...
Well, it was inferior for you. Personally,
for me, it felt like it was not so. You were not able to move so freely.
It wasn't so immersive. Yeah.
The immersion was there. Now, looking back at it, I realized that it was a very, very advanced game for its time. You must imagine nowadays most action games have some sort of focus targeting, and Zelda Ocarina of Time was the first game that introduced Z targeting, which was a focus targeting mechanic, where you could even switch between multiple enemies. I played a lot of 3D games growing up on the PC and etc. And a lot of these games, they had focus targeting, But they were not able to make it work with multiple enemies. Often it was very janky to control, and they know you would get owned by one of the enemies. But Zelda Ocarina of Time was able to, like, also because most of the fights in the game are really scripted, right? And they figured out how exactly the fights should look. Just think about it. Like, before that, there was no focus targeting. So you could not have this one-on-one combat with an enemy in a 3D game. And this is really one thing you must know. If you've played older 3D games like Croc, The Legend of the Gobos or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like,
wasn't that supposed to be a Yoshi game or something?
Yeah. We can talk about these old, obscure PlayStation 1 games another time. All the games that don't have some sort of focus targeting mechanic. I've played Rayman 2 a lot, for example, and Rayman 2 had this also a sort of focusing mechanic where you could focus on enemies and then it was much easier to shoot them. If you had to move and just figure out what direction to face and then shoot, it would have been impossible. And there's so many games, like this is the single most influential thing about this.
Yeah, no, that's big.
Yeah, exactly.
They also have it in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, well, every 3D game nowadays has it. Every 3D action game, as far as I can recall. But yeah, Ocarina of Time is, I think, one of the very coolest Zelda games to start with, because it is kind of the full package for a lot of gamers, I think, in general. They look back at Zelda Ocarina of Time and they're like, well, this game had everything. You had the story, it evolved.
And its score, too.
Yeah, the music is amazing. The music is timeless. All the items are very thoughtful and interesting. You have to use them to defeat the bosses and to get through the dungeons. And it's just such a well-rounded story. And it's really a classic story. Like, Zelda has always kind of the same pattern in its story, and Ocarina of Time is no different, except for the time traveling part, which is kind of interesting.
Which is pretty cool.
Just the fact that it was a 3D game in this open world, it gave you this feeling that the sky is the limit, at the time especially.
Yeah, so where did you play it? I mean, your friend?
At my friend's. I mean, I finished it much later on my 3DS.
With Ocarina of Time 3D.
Yeah, the Ocarina of Time 3D remake, which is amazing, and I absolutely recommend it. I must say, Ocarina of Time, really one of the greatest games.
And you also played a little bit of it on NSO, right?
Yeah, I've played it on NSO as well, just to see how it holds up, how it looks, and how it feels.
I remember watching you quite a lot. I had never played it myself, but I was always watching you play NSO. It looked really fun. Played a little bit, like the intro.
Yeah.
And the Deco tree.
No, it is really fun. The story alone, it just takes you away. And it's so creative the way they made the dungeons. There are dungeons that use optical illusions and stuff like that. I don't want to spoil too much here, because I think it's a game that if people have some time to spare and really want to get into it, I think everyone can try it and have fun with it.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. You even played it with the N64 controller, right?
Yeah, of course.
I
have the N64 controller for the Nintendo Switch, and that's a really authentic experience for that game. Like
with the Z trigger too and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. The proper Z trigger.
It's so funny because it's actually called Z trigger. The same functions that the Z trigger had back then are still in the Switch, just as ZL and ZR for the shoulder buttons left and right. Absolutely. And it's like in Breath of the Wild, if you want to shoot with your bow and arrow, you have to go on ZR, and if you want to target lock, you have to go on ZL, I think. So, and also like for the shield. So it's exactly like the same things that they had with Ocarina of Time, they still have in a 2017 game, Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom, which is a 2023 game. So this is really things that they did in that game still hold up till today,
Absolutely.
Also in shooters, they still have the ZR and everything. It's just so funny that it's in the same name.
Shooters do it a bit differently, right? Because in shooters, but some shooters also just use a focus targeting mechanic when playing them. I think action games mostly. Like, action games are the big ones. Like, imagine you would have to always have your character face in the right direction and then make the correct attack, and then also be that always the direction.
Yeah, that would be really...
And with camera movement, the big issue is always camera movement, right? And focus targeting just solves that issue so well. these old 3D games,
Definitely.
like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 included, they always had these camera control issues. Ocarina of Time solved that by having a fixed camera in some smaller confined spaces, and then in
But you have
combat
to say with
situations
those,
with the Z targeting, there is no camera issue.
But you also have to say with those like fixed screens, there is some clever tricks where they just have a 2D game.
Yeah,
much.
they did that a lot. Like this,
to put
you
it
can
on the
also see that
cartridge.
on older PlayStation games, where you feel you're moving your 3D character through a 3D screen, but really there are no polygons. Almost there are only polygons of the things you can pick up or destroy, and really it's just a pre-rendered screen that they put
Drawing,
on, or
pretty
a drawing, and they put it up there. And in Zelda Ocarina of Time,
You have that a lot too.
You have that a lot because the game is huge.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, like the way the Nintendo 64 computes graphics is just that they could do really amazing thing with polygons and have them animate in a very fluid way. Like you could animate water properly in the N64 with this graphics chip. But what it couldn't do was, funny enough, like have high resolution textures. Which is why all the models for characters on the N64, they are more or less monocolored, and they live off having different polygons and having having good models.
The
basically.
whole like color scheme is very similar.
Yeah, there are not a lot of color variations because if they had to use textures on the skins of their figures, then you could see, oh, this is a very low resolution texture. And these low resolution textures you can see all over Ocarina of Time on the boxes and everything. Like that is the reason why I think that the 3D remake on the 3DS is a much better way to play it, because it really is that feeling of, oh, this game felt that way to me when I was a kid. And when you actually look at the game at the N64 version nowadays, you're like, oof, these graphics
Pretty
are rough.
rough,
But on the 3DS, they have made it more stylized. It looks a bit more anime.
Well, I mean,
and it
in
really
the
fits.
Nintendo Switch Online also it's a straight up port, and with 3DS they also renewed some things, right?
Yeah, the 3DS is a proper remake. It's the exact same game. They redid a lot of things that just didn't have to be that.
So I think we are all like very together on that 3 has better graphics than the N64, or would you say so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
and the DS.
The DS also had actually better graphics than the
Did it? Okay.
N64, but it just didn't. In a lot of ways, the N64 could do things.
I just found it so crazy,
that the DS couldn't do.
Oh yeah, no, of course. But I just find it so crazy that like, okay, you get the N64 and then like about 10 years later, this big box is just compromised in this really small, thin thing, and it has stronger power.
Yeah,
Like
and it wasn't even
technology-
the most powerful device at the time.
No,
DS. If you compare the DS, the 3DS, then with the PlayStation Portable or something, these could play proper PlayStation 2 games, which the DS and 2DS
Of course,
even
couldn't play.
could. Yeah.
So, what is the second Zelda game you have played?
Well, I had a big break with Zelda after that. Like, I played at a friend's and he played Wind Waker, but I didn't play that as much.
Wind Waker was also a little bit weird for that time, where the people were saying that it's more childish.
Yeah, my
because
friend
of the
didn't
art
seem to
style.
mind it. He played it, and I also thought it was nice, but we didn't hang out as much anymore. And also he stopped playing like GameCube games as much, and he played more games like Diablo 2. And afterwards, my brother got a Wii, and one of the games he got was the Zelda game on the Wii, Twilight Princess. And that I didn't really play all too much, since I didn't play much video games at the time in general. And I remember it was very cumbersome. Like the intro was very long-winded, and then it always felt like, oh, well, I just have to find this gimmick item, and then I can unlock the next area, etc., etc. And I just didn't vibe too much with that at the time. Now I can totally appreciate it. Also, I had this feeling the Wii was supposed to be this next-gen thing, And I remember the graphics really didn't look that good to me. I felt, even at the time, that the GameCube graphics of Wind Waker were much more pleasant to look at than Twilight Princess.
The Wii was pretty much like, I think 1.25 times stronger than the GameCube. And normally it's like, oh, it's 20 or 40 times. So that was pretty crazy of like the power. It was pretty much not that much of an improvement. Still an improvement, but not a huge one. Just the way we worked with those like remotes. How did they actually implement the Wii remote into Twilight Princess?
The Wii motion controls, that was another thing. Like, Zelda is the game where you play sword fighter. So I kind of expected the sword fighting to be done over the Wii motion controls.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Which, funny enough, was not implemented at all. So rather than cutting from one side to side and then my character also cutting that same way with a sword, it was just, shake or wiggle the controller any way you wanted, and then he did the basic attack. And that was really not interesting. Basically, they realized that people had this expectation, and afterwards they made Skyward Sword, where you had sword fighting mechanics that worked just that way, the way I thought it should have already. And yeah, that was an improvement. At that point, I was not really into gaming much at all. It was not until much later that I rediscovered my love for Nintendo games when I had my 2DS and I got Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, and I also played Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. And that was such a creative and cool game, even though it was not really a proper 3D Zelda game, but a remake from Link to the Past. But Link Between Worlds is one of the absolute coolest games, and I think it's interesting because it's kind of the bridge between the old Zelda games and the new Zelda games that begin with Breath of the Wild, but we can talk about that later. That's why I always say it's before Breath of the Wild and after Breath of the Wild, because the Zelda series as a whole was The Legend of Zelda, the first game on the Nintendo, on the NES, and that allowed you to go anywhere, whenever you wanted. And then Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo introduced that formula where you went into dungeons and then you got the item and then
more linear.
It only allowed you to proceed in a certain way if you had these items, these specific items.
In a Metroidvania style.
Exactly. The Metroidvania style kind of was invented by the Zelda franchise in Link to the Past. And then the Zelda series kind of sticks to that formula very strictly until Breath of the Wild, and before that Link Between Worlds. Because Link Between Worlds is very important, I think, because it's the same game as Link to the Past, only with some very creative new mechanics. It allows you to go into any dungeon you want and have any item you need at a cost. You can just loan it out from a shop that is there from this bunny rabbit man.
Well, that's a game changer.
And then you can also acquire them. If you have enough money, you can just buy them. Otherwise, you lose all the items when you die. You just collect them again. And this is kind of the prototype for Breath of the Wild, which gives you the basic abilities and things you need to go on your journey. And basically, once you get the kite, once you get the glider, you are off on your way. So this is very similar, and I think that's the important thing. Of course, the revolution was Breath of the Wild, but the experiment was already done in Link Between Worlds. Even though I think the graphics are a bit basic, because it's on the 3DS, it's a very, very daring and cool game. And
Link Between the Worlds is a 3DS game?
It's a 3DS game, yes,
Okay.
exactly. They showed off the 3D capabilities by having the special ability you could move between cracks in the walls, and then you would become an image like a painting on that wall, and you could move alongside these walls. And then the perspective changed, which was interesting because it was not just a top-down game. Then you moved in a 2D space in the top-down game, similar to how you do in Super Mario Odyssey when you enter the pipes and you become a Pixel Mario. It's kind of the same here, but it's very creatively done.
Cool,
because that way you can find special exits, you can circumvent stuff, find secrets. It's a very, very, very good game. I love it. Really holds a special place in my heart. And I think this was the first Zelda game that I finished and played all the way through. I still remember I had to look it up how to beat the final boss. And then I immediately realized that, like, yes, of course.
It makes sense.
I had to redirect the golden balls the Ganon throws at me.
I had that experience
Yeah.
often with Titans in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. And after that, of course, I played Zelda Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch. And
'Cause-
that is one of my favorite games of all time, definitely.
No, of course, yeah. Because Legend of Zelda skipped the Wii U. They did 2 remakes, but no new game.
Well,
Breath of the Wild was the last Wii U game and the first Switch game. So, in Breath of the Wild, they had this really cool idea how to use the Wii U gamepad by having your Sheikah slate where all your information is on.
that would have made so much more
And
sense.
You have a map and everything, and Link carries around this
tablet type thing.
Yeah, that he can just take out and play on, and like look at the map on.
Well, it's like a console, right? He has
like a console,
like
yeah.
it's like his personal smart tablet.
Yeah, and it's really highly advanced by the Sheikah and everything, and it really looks like a Wii U gamepad. The original idea was that you can just take it out and you have always the map on your Sheikah slate, like on your Wii U gamepad. But Breath of the Wild got delayed and came to the Switch because they didn't want to give Switch players any disadvantages of seeing the map and the gameplay at the same time.
Yeah, they didn't want you to feel the definitive edition of this game is on the Wii U.
Exactly.
Which was the version that ran worse. So they made sure they released the same game and made sure that the messaging is clear. This is the big game for the new Nintendo Switch
yeah.
console.
And that means that this really cool idea never came to life. You couldn't use the Wii U gamepad in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, even though the whole Sheikah slate was made
It's
for the Wii U
obviously
gamepad.
made
Yeah.
for the Wii U gamepad. Yeah.
It's very funny because in Tears of the Kingdom they have the Pura pad, and the Pura pad is a Nintendo Switch. So that's really fun. Yeah.
Anyway, now we come into the territory where our stories overlap. Like, I started playing Breath of the Wild, and I finished it, started playing a bit of the DLC, and then you played through Breath of the Wild.
I distinctively remember you playing Breath of the Wild. That was the first year with the Switch released in like summer of that year. You got it pretty much shortly after launch.
Yeah, summer 2017, I think.
Yeah, I
Was
mean, I
it?
think it released in March or something, and you got it just before the summer holidays, and we were in Greece, and our family was like calling you down all the time, and you were just playing.
I was like,
Zelda.
yeah, one more shrine. I just need to get to the next shrine.
Yeah, and you will,
And you always wanted to watch.
I
You were
always
so
wanted to
enamored
watch
by
you.
this world.
and
But you were still so little. I didn't want to scare you because the story had some very scary parts.
I really remember how you were doing the water titan, like the elephant.
Mhm.
I forgot its name now, but
Yeah. When you're with this shark prince,
yeah, with
the good guy.
yeah.
I love him.
And you had the cryo module, and you're able to do the ice and then reflect, and you got on the elephant, and it was really fun, and I was just so impressed by the game. I'd never seen something like this. The Switch really just totally took me in as a kid.
Well, for me, it was the same. Like, the Switch is really the only new gen console I had. I didn't have a PS2. I played a bit on the Xbox 360, but I didn't have any of these arcade games, like vibrant games like that. And then Zelda Breath of the Wild, obviously, it just has this magical feeling. Also because of the graphics, because it has this...
And
like,
everybody was enchanted
anime.
by that game. Like,
Yeah.
it's usually when a new Nintendo game comes out, it's like, oh yeah, that's fun for the families and everything, but it's not really...
Well, mostly people are like, oh, that's really great if you're a Nintendo fan.
Yeah, it's not
I
really-
don't care about it.
It's not really big for anybody that doesn't own a Nintendo. And
Yeah.
this
It's
game
not, it's
was
not like GTA or anything.
No, of course. But this game just took over the whole world, really. And it won the Game of the Year at the Game Awards, too.
I think that was one of the few undisputed games of the year. Like, people, everyone who had a
Mario
Switch...
Odyssey also released in that year.
Yeah,
but it's
but
just...
that doesn't compare, really.
Because
You
also
know?
the people that play Odyssey aren't really the people that vote at the Game Awards, too. That's something you always have to see. Like, a Mario Kart will probably never get to win a Game of the Year award just because it's not the kind of people that play Mario Kart.
I don't care so much about the awards, but I think I more care about what's happening right now in gaming and what moves gamers' hearts. And I can remember growing up, like you had these times where everyone was playing Counter-Strike, they played this Half-Life mod online, yeah? And then people started playing World of Warcraft. Every gamer was locked in, they were all at home, no one was outside. They were all playing World of Warcraft all the time. Or when Diablo 2 was...
You were one of them for a while,
yeah.
For a while,
But back then, like... My brother more so, yeah. When they came out, people only talked. When you were with gamers, they were like, "Why are you here? Aren't you playing this and that now?" With Zelda Breath of the Wild, I feel anyone who had a Switch, anyone who even touched this game and gave it any sort of chance, they were like, "Yeah, this is a pretty big deal. This is a real game changer." It also made
it was
Nintendo...
a major selling point for the Switch too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't think the Switch would have
succeeded in the same way without Breath of the Wild. No,
for sure,
it
wouldn't have. No. Let's say it would have been cancelled, the game or something. You maybe would have had Odyssey at the launch or something, which would have been a great game. It would have sold a lot because it's a great system. But Breath of the Wild just really showed the people, okay, Nintendo's back, you know?
Yeah.
It really, like...
Yeah, also because it's so sandboxing. Like, you can do so many things, and I think, you know, if you want to be successful with a game in the modern era, you kind of have to give gamers the opportunity to show off their creativity. Like, you can see it with so many games, like Minecraft is a good example for that. Like, gamers, they don't always just want to be the best or beat everyone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just want to do funny or cool stuff and then show it off. And Zelda gave the opportunity to do that. Look, I can build this weird contraption, like in Zelda 1, and then in Zelda 2, Tears of the Kingdom, they just made that part of the game, which was a brilliant move by Nintendo, of course.
No, that was really big with the
And did you also
Hand.
play through Zelda Breath of the Wild, Zach?
So I played the whole game like 100 and something hours because I just loved wandering around, doing battles. And
there's also a common experience in Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, like not even...
The world is so beautiful you don't even want to finish the game.
That
you
is
just
so
want
true,
to explore everything, climb every peak, every mountain.
That's something that happened to me, and I played like so many hours, countless hours of it. Finished every Titan, and just the last thing I have to do is defeat Ganon.
Have you gone into the castle yet?
I have multiple times, but only for the weapons.
But they break all the time anyway. Those are like the worst weapons.
But I was like the Knights Royal Clamor.
Yeah. Did you find the shield already?
Yes, I came into the Hyrule Castle for that. Actually,
I understand.
Yeah, and I also never stayed there too long because there's these black moblins and...
What was Zelda Breath of the Wild your first Zelda game?
Yeah.
You didn't play it at friends or something?
No,
I understand.
This is my first Zelda game, so I also never wanted to trigger the final boss because I was a little bit uncertain.
You were still little when you started playing that.
No, yeah, I was.
Were you afraid?
I was a little bit, but I had already seen from videos, just not the boss, but the pig Ganon beast thing.
I understand. Yeah.
In the end, I knew it was like waiting for me in the castle, but I think I do have to do that now that we have the Switch 2 edition through NSO.
Yeah, it looks so amazing.
It's
like that fight
great.
is one of the few times in the game where you have frame drops. That, and I remember when you went to the fishing village, the area with the water in the jungle where you found all the durians.
Yeah, I know.
I love
and
that
of course
part as well.
in the Lost Woods,
in the where you find the Master Sword.
There you had quite a lot of frame drops because of all the water and the how it looked.
And the light animation,
yeah.
and all the forests, undergrowth, etc.
They fixed all of the frame drops in the Switch 2 edition and got it on 4K, so it's 4K 60 FPS. It's really beautiful in this definitive edition of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what other Zelda games have you played?
So afterwards, I played Tears of the Kingdom when it released. I got it on launch. It was my birthday present. I even got the pre-order package with the keychain, and I was really excited. Tears of the Kingdom took what Breath of the Wild had and made it better, in my opinion. But on the other hand, I think this experience you had when you first played Breath of the Wild, you will never have with Tears of the Kingdom. And that is, I think, the reason why a lot of people say that Breath of the Wild is the better game.
You have played both of them. Would you say that Tears of the Kingdom has a better story?
Oh, for sure.
Because
yeah.
I felt like in Breath of the Wild, that's the only thing that was
Breath
kind
of
of
the
missing.
Wild
I would have
story
loved
was-
a lot more dialogue and a lot more story, but it's basically just, okay, you retrace the steps of Zelda and you a long time ago, you find the memories, and then you have a few things, but there are no plot twists.
So
you already know from the start
there's
what's going to
similar
happen.
mechanics in Tears of the Kingdom, but the story is so much more interesting, and there's huge plot twists. Like, there's things in there I'm not going to tell you
No,
because
we're
it's
not
just...
spoiling anyone.
Yeah, no, we're not spoiling everyone, but in general, like, I wouldn't tell you because you haven't played the game yet. And it's amazing what happens in that game. With the trailer said it like, oh, Zelda is somewhere else, and it's really big. You get to have a whole big thing in Tears of the Kingdom, and the story is a lot better and a lot cleverer because they know that was one of the main criticisms of Breath of the Wild, the story.
And what about the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdoms? Because that was the other big point of criticism of Breath of the Wild, that it did not have proper dungeons, only these little puzzles with the titans. And
I think they're similar on the one side, but on the other side also so different too.
Is
Like-
there a big dungeon in Tears of the Kingdom? Or are all the dungeons in scale similar?
They're all in scale similar, like with Breath of the Wild. I think they're a little bit bigger than Breath of the Wild. They are very different. They did a lot of things with those dungeons and cool new ideas. I think maybe this, the wow effect of, oh, I see this elephant and it's riding around and I'm doing all these different things is the same to what was in Tears of the Kingdom. I really liked the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom. They invented a lot. Also, the other thing was Breath of the Wild, they had a DLC where they had the 5th dungeon pretty much in the DLC.
Yeah.
With Tears of the Kingdom, they just have it included.
Yeah.
They have 5 dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom, and the 5th one is unorthodox because you have one for the fire, one for the Gerudos, one for the
different
wind,
regions.
and one for the Zoras. So, and this one is also one that you wouldn't have known of. So it's also the cool thing about it is that they had these 3 layers now. So 2 dungeons are on the ground floor, 2 dungeons are in the depths, and 1 dungeon is in the air, you know? So it's very cool the way how they really did that.
I understand. Do you think they took inspiration from the fact that so many players during the time when Breath of the Wild came out uploaded clips of them building weird things within Breath of the Wild,
for
like
sure.
a motorcycle? You think they took an inspiration from that
definitely.
to
I mean,
do this building system?
Look, I think with the building system, they were like, okay, people love the physics of the game.
Because in
And
Tears of the Kingdom,
they
just
just
to make
doubled
sure.
up with the physics because they were like, okay, people can move things around and stack things with the magnet. Why not just do it
Combine
so it
them,
can glue
yeah,
automatically,
I
and then
understand.
it's ultra.
And just to make
So-
sure you know what we're talking about, in Tears of the Kingdom, you have the ability to build, like, if you pieces of the environment, you can just pick them up with one of your powers and then build things with them, and then you attach machines to them, and then you make them fly or glide
No,
or
it's really
rotate. And yeah,
Tears of the Kingdom is such a masterpiece. I love it. And I really think it improves on almost everything that Breath of the Wild had. But because you pretty much already experienced that kind of game, people don't cherish it as much.
I just think that if you're not too interested in the creative aspect of building stuff, if you just want to play, and you know, it's a more elaborate solve
But
the puzzles
that's
in Tears
something-
of the Kingdom,
that's
right?
something else. I think really the building is not such a main part of the game. It's you need it for a lot of the different side quests and stuff like that. But it's not like it's so central. It's really cool to do, but I don't think anybody would, if they don't like the building, I don't think they would not like to play the game. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely not a motivation.
Okay. Because it feels kind of off-putting to someone who doesn't like I don't play games because I want to build things all the time.
They had this whole 10 minutes overview where A.J.R. Noma, the maker of the Zelda games,
and also the creator of 3D Zelda games in general.
Yeah, he was also doing
he also made
Ocarina of Time and everything, yeah. He was showing off the building mechanic, but just because I think it just took them so much resources to make it. It's not like the whole game is centered around that. It changes the gameplay a lot, but it's not like it takes it away from you or anything.
Because, they also applied that to weapons, etc., where you can build weapons on the fly, so the game feels much more MacGyver-y. And in Breath of the Wild, what I loved so much about it was that it felt like such an adventure and a survival game in that way. And in Tears of the Kingdom, it feels even more like a survival game because of that element.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So what we also wanted to talk about was what we think about Zelda's future, Zach. What do you think? Where does Zelda go from here, from Tears of the Kingdom? Because as you said, Tears of the Kingdom already perfected that formula. Breath of the Wild felt like such a perfect game from that formula because of the environmental puzzles. You just run around in the outer world and you find things and they're interesting and then you want to solve these puzzles. What do you think Zelda will go on doing now?
I think, so A.J.R. Numa said in an interview just after Tears of the Kingdom, we're done with the game. We shipped the game, finished. And we're not doing any DLCs. But we're also done with this specific world. We won't do another game in this world. So maybe they'll do a little, new kind of this world. But they won't copy it like in Tears of the Kingdom and just...
But yes, of course, because that would feel very copy-paste like. I wonder if Nintendo, if they can even go back to another style of Zelda game. I think that people will expect the next Zelda game to be an open world game.
Something I was talking about with somebody else just a few days ago was that the GTA games, they just improve on themselves every game now. And I think that's something maybe Zelda will also become. Like you have not essentially being bigger, but having more, maybe a little bit more density and more polish, and maybe also more areas, more interesting locations, more side quests.
You think Zelda could be bigger? Like the world of Tears of the Kingdom could be even bigger? I would love a world like Breath of the Wild, but just twice as big.
I think so. Yeah, I think they could do that. I mean,
it doesn't even have to have an underground.
Yeah. I mean, let's say there's something I was always very astonished about, that if Link would walk in walking speed, or not in walking speed, but
if this was in real world,
if this is in real world, yeah. Hyrule in Breath of the Wild, from the one side of Hyrule to the other side, to walk or to run, it doesn't matter. The size is the same size as Tokyo, I think, which is huge.
Yeah.
And that was really something where I was like, I'm walking through Tokyo 2 times daily when I was playing a lot of Zelda. And I really think this adventure aspect was charged by, oh my god, it's so big. One of the first things I realized when I played Zelda Breath of the Wild was, okay, this world is huge, and I just unlocked a plateau, and then I saw the map of where I was walking in, and I was zooming out, and I was like, this map is 100 times larger.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when I first played Breath of the Wild. I was like,
what is this?
All right.
Sorry. That's crazy, yeah. And then I was just having my travels to Kakariko, and it took such a long time for me because I was just exploring everything and talking to everybody and doing everything I saw. And I was like, okay, I'm not even halfway there at some point, and then it was really giving me this feeling of I have to explore this map, and I think that's something they'll do with this next game. They'll maybe do it bigger if they can, but they'll change a lot of the stuff they have to give you this feeling of exploration, exploring a new world again.
Do you think they will go back to weapons not breaking?
I don't think
and
so,
having
no.
fixed items.
No, because I think weapons breaking and having non-fixed items is a good thing for Zelda. I think that was that for these types of games.
I understand.
It was definitely needed.
But people I think there are still some people who argue that this doesn't really make them Zelda games anymore. They're way more like an Assassin's Creed type game, or some other kind of survival game, only that it has this Zelda formula. Like, I'm really looking forward to what Nintendo is going to do, because there are different ways they could keep on improving this. And there are also ways in which they could take a step back and maybe still, like, what if it's the same style of game, but only you get the special powers, like the ice power or the magnet and such, and you have to unlock that by traveling around the world.
Something I would have thought was also. I mean, I see how they wanted to give you all the powers at the beginning and then let you use them differently, and it makes totally sense because you're free to go wherever you want.
That was the theme of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, that would have been cool too if you had I finished the Water Titan, then I can
I get the
I
can move rivers or something like that.
Yeah, no, like it doesn't matter what, but it's just this aspect of
the
unlocking
water arm,
something.
the water arm where you can have water run differently.
Yeah, that was
like it would
really
be
cool.
on theme. Yeah,
this is
something that I also had to criticize a bit on Breath of the Wild. It doesn't really feel.
You just get a heart container.
Yeah, it does not feel impactful to finish something. There is no extra incentive to do these dungeons.
I mean, maybe Ganon is weaker, but it's not like.
Yeah, well, that is just the final fight becoming easier. Is kind of a feature, but it's not really the main point, the main selling point. But then again, it's in Zelda Breath of the Wild. I feel the world is really what makes you
play the game.
What makes you play the game? What draws you in? And all the things you can do in it.
It's really
it's
immersive,
all just a piece of the bigger picture of the puzzle, so to speak.
So we're very excited for the future of Zelda games, and
yeah, I hope you are too.
Yeah, because we're gonna talk about that definitely.
Yeah, when do you think they will announce the next Zelda game?
I don't think we're gonna get that anytime soon. So the time between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom was 6 years, and that was in the same world practically. I mean, they added the depths. And
it was like Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 in terms of. Like, they were like, okay, we already have this world, we already put in so many resources. We already have the engine,
let's just make it better.
But let's make but we put in so much love, why not make a second game with this? And I'm glad that they did that.
No, I think so too, that's really great.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this time we may even see a little bit of a longer cycle than 6 years. I'm sorry to say, but maybe like even, 7 or something. But okay, I see Nintendo with the Switch 2 era, they announce a lot of games just shortly before they release. But I think Zelda will be one of the games they teaser, like a year earlier at least.
Oh, they're probably going to make a teaser. The sequel to Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, is now in development.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they will just show us a black screen with a silhouette of like the Master Sword or something and the logo.
I think maybe a little bit of footage, but we had the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom, and we didn't get to even, like, the whole scene they showed us there never was in the final game. So the first teaser was in the depths. It was Zelda on an elephant.
Yeah.
This whole scene was never in the game because they changed the story dramatically. It was still a good trailer, and it teased that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is in development. So I think we'll get that sequel maybe in 3 years or something. That little
Tears of the Kingdom
teaser.
released in 2023.
Yeah, so 2 years ago. So I think we'll
Cool.
get the teaser in 2 years or 3 years.
I would love to have some sign of life from Zelda in
Well,
2026.
don't doubt.
Yeah,
Well-
I think in their release schedule, the next game that is due to release is another Super Mario game, right? So probably we'll get the Super Mario game before we get a new Zelda. It's always like that with Nintendo. They always like alternate between these.
No, yeah. I think we'll first get Mario and then we'll get teased Zelda maybe in 2027 and get it in 2028 or 9. 9.
Okay, well we're in for a bit of a wait.
Yeah.
Well, we have all these great Zelda games to play until then, like Link Between Worlds on the 3DS or Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 2, which
You definitely have to
will
play.
play.
And
at
something
some point.
I never played too, or we don't own, is Echoes of Wisdom, which would also interest me because I heard quite good things about that, and it's a free Switch 2 upgrade too
yeah.
for that game. Yeah, let's go to games we're playing right now.
Well, I've been playing a lot of Diablo 4 Season 10. It's the Season of Chaos or something, which doesn't really concern me too much. I only play the seasons because they give you a bunch of extra powers. And I'm really surprised, like, I played Diablo 4 at launch, and it was like, well, this is kind of okay, but it kind of feels so convoluted, and it's a bit too complex. And now the game has gotten somehow even more complex, but at the same time...
With the add-on Vessel of Hatred, you have to say that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
And the
played the
seasonal
add-on.
content, I play the add-on, but the add-on really adds only... It does not fundamentally change the game in the same way. I mean, they give you some ways to customize your build and some new items to drop, but all the features are also in the base game. You can enjoy them without having the add-on. I must say, they somehow made it, like... more complicated, but at the same time very streamlined. They explain you everything pretty well.
You played the story too.
I've played through the story now, and now I've finally entered the end game and unlocked the different difficulties. Now when I do this special dungeon that's called the Pit, where it's super scalable, and like I can do Pit 25 or 20 or 30, and then I unlock the next difficulty, and it's quite hard. I already got my butt kicked there a couple of times, but I beat it because I already had my Barbarian maxed out as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
And I must say, it's just amazing. These games, I've played a lot of Diablo 2 and I've played even more Diablo 3. This Diablo 4 is very cool, like just playing through an action hack and slash game like that again, where it's like, yeah, you just... cruise through the enemies. I could do a whole episode.
Yeah,
about
I just
that.
wanted to say we can also do a Diablo episode or Blizzard episode if you want.
Yeah,
Because you
I would
played a lot of Blizzard.
I would
games.
prefer to do a Diablo episode actually because it's one of my favorite game franchises.
But yeah, now that's really cool. I'm still playing Star Wars Outlaws a lot. It's really fun, and I'm still on Toshara doing side quests, and now some more of the main quest. I was just on an Imperial base in space, and the space is really nice.
Yeah,
It's
you
really
you
fun.
rescued a head instead of a glass
Yes,
jar.
Nosnark or something was his name.
Who somehow
Really
is a
fun.
bookkeeper or something. Yeah, the game is
Yeah.
really charming.
No, it's really fun. I really like it. I also tried out Fall Guys after a year again, and
Yeah.
it's pretty much they cut
the
all the
same game.
support, but it's still the same game, and it's fun because they sell their season passes, and
Yeah.
it's really fun still.
That's it for today's episode, I think.
I think so too. Really nice that you tuned back in and that you stayed and listened.
Yeah, have a great one and see you soon.
Bye!